done the Pledge of Allegiance yet?
No, we haven't.
No.
All right, we'll start with a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the
And
flag.
Of the United States of America,
and to the republic
For
for which it
for which it
stands,
stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty
and justice for all.
Now we'll do the roll call.
Campbell,
Here.
Kabasa is excused. Kinney. Ortman,
Here.
Pranick,
Here.
Hufall,
Here.
Endor,
Here.
Rose,
Here.
Berlin,
Here.
Corpola,
Here.
Mika,
Here.
Vitek,
Here.
Here.
Huber,
Here. Here.
Hennanen,
Here.
Wiener, Schutte,
here,
Could you unmute?
Erdig,
Here.
Feedback.
Agro,
here,
Mackenzie,
Here.
Quebec,
Here.
Metzinger, Bill Metzinger.
Here.
Thank you.
Oh, there is a quorum.
19 present, 2.
Thank you.
How many were present, Heather?
19 present, 1 excused, 1 absent.
Okay. Next, we need a motion to adopt the agenda.
Make a motion to adopt the agenda. Berlin.
I'll second the motion. Kathy Schutte.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Can we have discussion, please?
Go ahead.
Can we please have discussion?
Who
Where do you want to put it?
This is Charlie Ortman. Can we have discussion on this motion, please?
We did have a second.
No, I'm asking for discussion on the motion to adopt the agenda.
Well, that's a little out of the ordinary, but go ahead.
Well, the agenda I had for E number 1 says approve chair and administrator appointments to committees. I was kind of thinking the appointment, electing the executive committee would be on there too, and it wasn't. And I see it's been added, but I don't think it's been added in time to be properly noticed. So I think we need to push the election to the next meeting, or we'll be in violation of the noticing laws.
So this is Clark. I had checked in with Max about that. Yeah, I had forgot to put down the election and executive committee on the thing 6 days ago when we did that. And so I did check with Max, and he says basically appointments to committees would, in his mind, would also include the executive committee since they are a committee. And whether they're appointed or elected, he feels that that would suffice for our public notice. And Max is on the line if you have a question for him about that.
No, that sounds good to me. I just wanted to make sure we were okay with the rules. Thank you.
Good catch.
Okay, next on the agenda is the public comments. I don't know if we have any public on the line.
Did we vote on that, adopt the agenda? Did I miss it in my static?
No, I guess we did. Kind of sidetracked.
Yeah.
Motion
Yeah,
to-
sorry about that.
Motion to
I
approve.
voted yes.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Next comments. You know, Heather, do you know if we have any public online?
I'm sorry, Dick, what was that?
You know if we have any public online?
I have no record of public comments.
Okay, then we'll move on to the consent agenda. Approval of County Board Supervisor minutes, April 21st meeting.
I'll make a motion for it.
This is Laura. I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Who made the motion, please?
Pardon me?
This is Heather. Who made the motion?
Metzinger,
Thank you.
All right, consent agenda has passed. The next thing is E, regular agenda. Approve chair and administrator appointment to committees. When we're done with that, we will do the election of the executive committee.
Okay, we had, this is Clark, and we had a, in the rush to get out the, in the rush to get this packet out in 6 days, which is my expected timelines. Hang on, let me get this in front of you here. We ran it past staff after we had already published it, and basically staff had a couple corrections that on the administrative appointments. Actually, there's one chair appointment here also. And so the ones in yellow in this spreadsheet that Heather Schutte has a copy of also, this is, and I sent this out to people at emails yesterday. This is the portion that we would want to approve with the county board. One of the additions here, Land Information Council. Thank you for muting your phone. Land Information Council, we basically had to research this yesterday because we had originally had the 8 statutorial appointments by position, and then we found a resolution from 2011 that added these 4 people here. So basically Matt Schultz, Josh Rowley, Jeff Hobbs, and Matt Erdman down there. So I checked in with legal, and legal says that we do have the availability to add to that committee outside of the state statutes of the requirements. And so that was the appointments that were added to there. And then the LEPC was updated to include the people that, since the last time they have met, these are the people that were included on that. And Dorothy has been working on that. It's my understanding they only meet once a year, and so they'll meet sometime this summer or this fall. So it's just a once a year committee. Those are my additions to that particular agenda item.
Not all of us are looking at a computer and can see what you're talking about shaded in yellow. So Clark, when you talk to this, would you use the packet that was sent out to us and then annotate what names have been added or changed so that those of us that are trying to follow along without a computer in front of us can understand?
Yep.
Good point.
Land conservation, there was Carly Peck is the FSA rep, and I don't know who the other rep was. I just have a corrected version. I don't have an annotated version going from one to the other. So Carly Peck is a change on the Land Conservation Committee. Laura Cruz is a citizen at large change to the Health and Human Services Board, which was Terry Barningham had said the other person that was on there basically was no longer available for that. On the ADRC, which is a chairperson appointment, Jan Kupchak, citizen rep, was added to that. Land Information Council, basically we have the pieces that are highlighted in yellow are the treasurer, the register of deeds, the property lister, the realtor, public safety, and then the county assistant forester, zoning administrator, IT rep, and City of Ashland GIS coordinator. And so those were basically the changes to either people that had changed positions or people that were needed to be added due to the statutory requirements. And then the LEPC administrative appointments, we had added Kevin Joki, firefighting member, Erica Kutz, hospital member, Doug Jennings, civil defense member, Elizabeth Zott changed out for public health officer, and then Dorothy had recommended that the county administrator attend that meeting also, and that meeting does happen sometime this summer. Those are the changes that were from the packet, and I apologize for that particular those particular snafus.
Just a question for you on some of those appointments, Clark. Some of the people have titles after their names, so would it naturally be that if someone was replaced in a job that person would then, that new person who's in that job would take over that appointment? Is that how it works? I'm just wondering for my own.
Yeah. So one of the things we also have in the back of the handbook, if you approve the handbook, the appendix in the back of the handbook basically has a document, and those who are on computers can see this, but on the back of your handbook, I had a appendix A that just listed titles and no people at all. And so those, those would be the official appointments based on the titles.
Great, that's helpful. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the committee appointments.
I make a motion.
I'll second
Berlin.
that. Philomena Quebec.
We have a motion.
Please state your name when making motions and seconds so we can record them for the minutes, please. Thank you.
I did say Berlin, didn't I?
Thank you, Mike.
And Heather, that was Philomena Quebec seconding.
Thank you.
All in favor then of the appointments, the committees, say aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we will be electing executive committee, 3 members. We'll take nominations at this time.
I'd like to.
I nominate Marty Bitek.
Yeah.
Any more nominations?
This is Charlie Ortman. I would like to nominate Charlie Ortman.
This is Franek. I'd like to nominate Gary Mertig.
Okay, there, that's
Are there any more nominations?
This is Laura Negro. I'd like to nominate, forgot where I was going, Bill Metzinger.
Are there any more nominations?
I missed one. I have Marty Vitek, Charlie Ortman, Bill Menziger. Who is the fourth nomination?
Gary Murray.
Got it. Those of you who are not on the computer, I just highlighted on our sheet the 4 nominations so far.
Are there any more nominations?
This is Charlie Ortman. I would just like to make sure that everyone who was nominated accepts their nomination. I accept mine.
This is Metzinger. I accept mine.
This is Marty Vitek. I'll accept mine.
This is Gary Murdick. I'll accept.
All right, if there are no more nominations, we'll close the nomination period.
Okay.
Heather?
We're gonna handle the election just like the chair and vice chair process. So those of you who do have access to a email Heather with your selections, and those otherwise Heather will be reaching out to you on your phone numbers to call you to get your vote on that.
This is
Please remind us, how many people do we vote for?
3.
3. You're voting for 3 people. Bill Menziger, Charlie Ortman, Marty Vitek, or Gary Murdick. And those are the 4 nominations, so you need to vote for 3 of those people, either via email to Heather or to via a phone call that Heather will call you.
Heather?
Yes.
This is Matt McKenzie. You're not going to be able to reach me.
I see that.
Heather, this is Doreen. Can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah, you'll have to call me because I'm not on a computer.
I will do so. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
This is Joe Rose. Call me also.
Thank you, Joe.
Clark, could you stop screen sharing so I can access my email? Thanks.
Okay, that should, you should be good to be able to access your email.
Heather, it's Kathy Schutte. Could you call me at home too?
Heather, this is Marty Vitek. Could you call me at home too?
This is Rich Huber. You have to call me at home too.
Heather, this is Bill Metzinger. Could you call me at home too?
She's gonna bring me a ballot? You're gonna bring me a ballot? Okay.
Dick, your microphone isn't muted. You can hear all your background stuff.
Yeah, I was going to also just give a gentle reminder that if you are not speaking
currently, it's a good idea to mute your microphone so we don't get feedback.
Okay.
For people that are on the phones too, you can also mute. It's *6, and that's how you unmute yourself too when you need to talk. Because there's a lot of people rubbing phones around that you can hear, and I can hardly hear when people talk.
Hmm?
I need your vote.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, okay. You want me to just write them?
Yeah, Marty Butek. Gary Marty. There we go.
Boy, you're pretty slipped up today.
Well, I got the audience.
That's pretty posh.
You are on.
Charlie, I'm unable to reach you. Either email or do you want me to call you with your vote?
I sent you a chat on this medium here.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Thank you.
Oh, that's quite all right. Thank you.
One thing that I forgot to mention earlier when we were doing the moment of silence, Liz Franik's father passed away about a week ago. So if you want to give her your condolences, or we can dedicate this meeting to him, it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Dick.
Thank you, Dick.
My condolences to you.
Thank you, Charlie.
Heather, are you there?
She's bringing the results down.
I'm not following this.
12, Ortman 10, Murdig 12, Metzinger 13. So these are the top.
Okay. We have the results in on the vote for executive committee. Marty Vitek had 12 votes. Gary Murdig had 12 votes. Charlie Ortman had 10 votes. And Bill Metzinger had 13 votes. So we have Marty, Gary, and Bill.
Congratulations, Bill, Marty, and Gary.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie.
Congrats. This is Franek.
I don't know if there will be any discussion on this item or not. If not, we'll move on to E2, restaurant licensing fee review.
This is Supervisor Ortman. I move to approve.
This is Campbell, I second.
This is Gary Murdick. I have a question. Do we know what those licensing fees amount to in a year?
Yeah, so in the packet, there was basically, those who are on the computer can see this, but basically you have restaurant and food services anywhere from $200 to $1,300. You have lodging, touristing rooms, hotels, anywhere from $300 to $1,800. You have campgrounds, recreational campgrounds, swimming pools, tattoo body piercing establishments, retail food services, anywhere from 800 to 1,000. So I basically sent out a letter last night, basically from Nancy, that basically talked about the fact that they're obviously, with the being shut down, there's a lot of decreased business. Some of them can't do takeout. It does not alleviate or release us from doing inspections, however. And as an arm of the state, I want people to understand that we basically are just doing this on behalf of the state, and the state gets a lot of these fees. We don't have the option of not doing this. We don't get to decide whether to do inspections or not. It's part of the requirement of being an arm of the state. So the best that we can come up with is basically move to extend the payment of license fees in the attached fee chart 3 months past their due date, provided they're paid by 12/31/2020. And that's Bayfield County is doing the exact same thing. Other county administrators I've been talking to are doing the same thing, because we do not have an option to basically eliminate these fees.
Dick, could I speak on that for a minute? This is Clarence.
Go ahead.
Just a little history on the background of this. Way back quite a few years ago, the state was doing these inspections, and they had somebody in this area who inspected, I think, Ashland, Iron, and maybe Price County, and it was a state position. And the person in that position either resigned or retired or whatever it was, and they were having trouble filling the position. And Terry Kramalis was the county health officer at that time, and she came to the Health and Human Services Board with a proposal that we take over that position in Ashland County and hire a sanitarian. And she basically said that we could pay for that position with these licensing fees. And I think we get the majority of those fees. I'm not exactly sure what the percentage is, but a certain amount does have to be sent to the state. But the fees basically pay for the position of sanitarian. And so we can't waive these fees because, like Clark said, they are required fees, and we are required to do the inspections, and the money that we garner with those fees pays for that position. We also do inspections in Price County, by the way.
This is Charlie Ortman. May I speak to this too, Dick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I like that we're trying to do something, but my real heartburn is the state has ordered these businesses closed, yet insists that they continue to pay taxes. I think if I had my way, I would agree to the request the Tavern League has given if we could. I guess we can't, but something's wrong with ordering a business to shut down and then still emptying their wallet. I think the state should have came down and said these businesses we forced closed will not have to pay any of these things, and the state can absorb the inspection fees. I think this is very close to tyranny. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
That's a good point, Charlie. Clark, the letter from Nancy Sindor that never got out, of course, it's online, but to those people that don't have a computer, they don't know what we're talking about as far as her request. I wonder if you have a copy of that, or if Heather has a copy of that, if they could read it to those people who are tuned in but not online.
Sure, I can read that. Dear County, Ashland County Supervisors, I'm writing on behalf of all food license holders in the County of Ashland. First, let me say we understand the county is suffering a financial hardship in this unprecedented. As you are all aware, the restaurant and bars in Ashland have been shut down since 5 p.m. on March 17th. Governor Evers' latest extension put us closed until May 26th and the Tuesday after Memorial Day. There are a total of 70 days, including St. Patrick's Day, Easter, Mother's Day, the season starting Memorial Day weekend. We were all left with bills and payroll and no income to pay them. Some of us have been able to do carry-out orders, but this is nowhere near enough revenue to keep our businesses going. Unfortunately, not all license holders are able to do takeout or curbside pickup, forcing them to close completely. Considering this issue, I'm asking on the behalf of your small business community that the County of Ashland consider placing on the upcoming agenda the following item: waive food licensing fees and extend our food licenses until 2021. This may not seem like a lot of money to you, but every little bit helps our small, struggling businesses in Ashland. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. Sincerely, Nancy Sindor, Stagecoach Bar and Grill, Ashland Bayfield County Tavern League. And I did reach out to Nancy with an email explaining basically the rationale for the staff recommendation for the motion, which was made and seconded.
This is Supervisor Quebec. In addition to, this motion, if we're going to approve this motion to extend the due date, I think it would be wise for Chairman Pufall, on behalf of the Ashland County Board, to draft a letter to the governor. I'd be happy to help with that, requesting that these required fees should be changed. And, for those days that these businesses have not been allowed to operate, they shouldn't have to be paying any fees to the state. I agree that that's overreach on the part of the state government. And if we don't have the authority to do that as a county board, then we should tell the state they should do that on behalf of these businesses that are really struggling. These small businesses, including restaurants, make up a big portion of our employers in Ashland County. And we need them to be able to survive, and they shouldn't have to be paying fees for this time period that they're not able to operate. I don't necessarily agree that it's certainly the public health inspections need to go on, and this order shouldn't affect. If there's a health issue in a business, I don't think that their license should be extended. But certainly, if the payment of fees has not been made, then that's a separate issue. So that I just want to also keep track of that one. But I do think we should send a letter to the state on this, because it's a problem.
I would appreciate it, Ms. Palomino, if you would draft up something like that, and I'd be glad to sign it. The problem is ongoing, because now they're loosening restrictions, but the bars and restaurants are still under the gun. And I don't know how long they think these people can survive with no income. Something has got to be done about that. So if you will draft up a letter with your legal expertise that I can look at, and we'll work on that together. Thank you. Now we have a motion and a second on the table to approve the restaurant licensing fee review. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Any discussion?
We will. I will have the sanitarian and the public health department send out a notice to all our license holders, notifying the effect of this change, and we will send that out hopefully this week.
Okay, thanks, Clark. E3, Second Street Bistro loan modification. Clark, do you want to handle that?
Yeah. So those of you who are new to the county board, the county has a revolving loan fund, and in this revolving loan fund, we have a half dozen companies throughout the years that we've been loaning money to for capital improvements or startups or whatever, and then we also have maybe a $400,000 in a bank that we also have got back from these companies. One of the companies has been struggling is a Second Street Bistro. It is a small restaurant in downtown on the east side of downtown Ashland. They have not made any payments since April of 2019. And they basically, in the packet that you have, I won't read through it, but you guys have all been able to see this. In negotiations with the revolving loan committee. So there's how this works out is there's a revolving loan committee, and I sit on that and chair that committee, along with like John Burrow and some other people, and there's some minutes that are attached to your packet. They make recommendations for the management of these and acceptabilities of loans. The finance committee is the one that would make a recommendation to the full county board, and the full county board would actually approve a loan or a loan modification. So in this case, I am skipping the procedure of taking it to the finance committee first, because Paul from the Second Street Bistro really can't rebuild any of his finances for his restaurants unless he knows the county is willing to refinance his loan. And so the recommendation from the revolving loan committee to the county board is we basically restructure his loan to a 10-year, provided that he pays the $1,113.70, which is 1/2 of the accumulated interest that he would have paid had he not made payments since April of 19 upon closing. And then we basically will roll that into the loan. The other half of that interest will be capitalized and put into that loan for him. The interest rate is at 6% because when the loan was taken out, and I did ask this question of the AADC, when the loan was taken out, that was the going interest rate, and we're just basically modifying the loan. We're not coming back for a new loan with brand new money, making new terms and new interest on it. So even though that interest rate sounds a little high, he can't get any further financing, and that's part of the mission of the revolving loan fund, is to help businesses who otherwise would not be able to get enough capital to expand or run their businesses. So with
This
that,
is Matt McKenzie.
Yeah.
I move to approve as outlined by Clark.
This is Laura Negro.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the Second Street Bistro loan modification. All those in favor say aye.
Actually,
Aye.
Dick, you should ask for discussion first before you ask for a vote.
We were just discussing it.
Clark,
any more discussion before we vote on this?
Yeah, Clark, this is Pat Kinney. On the interest rate, and I'm familiar with the revolving loan fund from my time on the Ashland City Council. With the interest rate at 6%, I'm not clear on I know they're going to renew that one, and that's why the desire was to stay at 6%, but with interest rates where they're at now, and probably for years to come, was there any discussion at a rate that's a bit lower? Because if you take 6% of 40,000 as an estimate, that's $2,400 a year, $200 a month. Was there any discussion of a lower rate that would be more consistent with market rates at the present?
There was not any discussion concerning lowering the interest rate, as we would basically have to requalify and consider it a brand new loan. And since he had not been making, basically it skipped 12 months worth of payments, and given it's probably you have to even though the interest rates are lower, you have to assume there's some sort of a higher risk given a candidate that didn't make any payments for 12 or 13 months.
So there would be no balloon on this extension then, if I'm reading it correctly?
That's correct. This would be a full amortized 10-year loan.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any more discussion on this? Any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor of approving the Second Street Bistro loan modification, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank you. Number 4, E4, County Board packets.
Staff is making a recommendation that we email out packets and post them online for every member who has a county email. And so that we're down to just 3 people who don't have county emails. And part of this is to save, we want to be able to save money and time by printing and postage and mailing these out. And because I kind of view that as an administrative decision, I did want to bring it to the board because it would affect each board member. So they would know that if you have a county email, you're going to have to get them from your county email. And so my motion is move to only print and mail packets to county board members without county emails.
This is Supervisor Ortman. I move to approve that.
Ron, second.
This
is
is Pat.
Matt McKenzie. Discussion, please.
Clark, I think there are people who are online who are able to get this packet that way, who are opposed to getting it that way. They would like to get the packets in the mail. So I think we'd like to hear from those people.
This is Joe Rose. I would like to continue getting my packet in the mail.
And this is Kathy Schutte, and I have email, but I would still like to get the hard copy through the mail because sometimes email is not working and we don't get stuff for 2 to 3 days later. Email is not perfect either.
It's online also. Once we email it out to the board, it's online for the public to see. So you get it the same time the public sees it. So email is not your only option. If you have internet access, you also have access to the board packets.
This is Matt.
Clark, could I finish?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
You know, the one thing that is making me puzzled lately is we get $50 to attend a meeting, and then we are required to print out everything that you send us, and we have to mail. It's costing us more to be supervisors than and we don't get a raise in pay. Ink, printing, postage, that all costs us money.
This is Frantic. Everything should be online, like Clark said. So if you have access to internet, just you can look it up, just like the public can. Everything should be published.
This is Metzinger. Does the committee member, the individual committees, are the minutes going to be done the same way? Everything email?
That would be the recommendation from your county administrators, that if you guys make a decision this way, that it would follow through to the committee level.
Thank you.
This is Doreen Hannanen. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. I worked for Bayfield County for a short period of time last year, and I helped put together some of these packets. And I was assistant to the administrative clerk. And most of theirs were done by email, or their website posted them also. There was only a couple over there that were mailed out to similar situation as what you're talking. I am in support of the email packets.
This is Supervisor Ortman. May I weigh in?
Yeah, go ahead.
Might a solution be that the supervisor goes into the office and says, I would like, you may mail me or not, and a supervisor can choose to be part of this electronic program or continue to get their packages in the mail. That to me would seem to be the best course, because some people have problems with internet further out of town, I guess. And I guess I feel, I mean, if a supervisor wants hard copy and he just doesn't want to play in the email world, that should be their choice too. So I would recommend we make this a voluntary thing.
This is Supervisor Negro. We are in a digital economy now, and as we go through all of this, our small businesses, even with the constraints that they're in, have to do their own printing and things if they want things. No one has to print these off. If you want them printed off, we took these jobs knowing there was things we'll have to do. And we're trying to reduce costs in order to save those same people money. A printer doesn't cost that much. And there's lots of people that'll help you set them up and help you learn how to print and everything. We've got lots of great staff that can help with that stuff. So I feel we should actually have everything just online and not be doing any more of the print. I myself print them out if I need them. I don't ask anybody for any kind of cost recoup on that because that's my choice.
This is Joe Rose. I agree with Charlie Ortman on this one.
And this is Kathy Schutte, and I agree with Charlie too. For those of you that live in the city, maybe it's easier for you, but out here, we're at the very end of this internet signal, and sometimes somebody can send an email and you don't get it for 3 days. Email isn't perfect either.
Okay, so I hear the feeling of the board. There's some people that want to do this. There was a motion and a second, and you moved into discussion on the motion. Basically, move to only print and email packets to board members without counting emails. At this point, you could vote on that and then make another motion after that, or if you wanted to change that motion, you'd have to get the original people that made the motion to have a friendly amendment to change it. So Dick, that'll be up to you to decide how you want to move forward with this.
Well, I think we should, before we vote on this, we should look for a friendly amendment to attach to the county board packet approval, so that those people that would like to have both email and paper copies have that opportunity. So would anybody?
This is Ron. I second that motion, so I go with the amendment to that.
This is Supervisor Orton. Did I motion the approval of this? I don't remember.
Yes, that is correct, Charlie.
Okay, well, I will move to amend it as suggested as well then. Change my motion.
Heather, could you read the motion as amended?
We don't have an amendment. I was just going to ask for that.
Okay.
This is Franek. I make a motion to, or not a motion, but a friendly amendment that those that need the packets mailed out can do so and let the clerk know in decent time. And those that have emails will let the clerk know that they would like theirs emailed.
I'll second the friendly amendment.
Is that amendment clear enough for you, Kathy?
The amendment.
I will amend my original motion to declare that this voluntary program, if you want it, somebody's mic is not muted, I think. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. I will amend, Heather, I'll amend the motion to read that this electronic package will be on a voluntary basis, and those who want to continue to receive printed copies may do so by asking the clerk. Is that clear?
Yes, thank you, Charlie.
You're welcome. Do you second that, Ron?
Ron, I second that.
All right, any more discussion? If there's no more discussion, we're ready to vote. All those in favor of approving county board packet option that was read before you, and if Heather would like to read that motion again. Clark, do you have that?
All right.
Go ahead, Heather.
To amend the electronic packet on a voluntary basis and to notify the clerk to only print or mail packets to county board members without email. Does that sound right?
No.
Are we ready to vote?
Yes.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no.
No.
Motion carries. Thank you. E5, set possible county board meeting date.
Okay, this was brought to my attention by a county board member in order to help facilitate either committee meetings or vacations or people's personal schedules. They would like to see us set possible meeting dates. Not that we have to meet on those dates, but that would help the rest of the functioning of the organization. In discussing it with staff at the department heads, because again, my goal for all of my departments and for staff here is to try to get the packets out 6 days ahead of the date so the public has plenty of opportunity and the board has plenty of opportunity to review the packet before the meeting dates. In order to facilitate that, staff is recommending that we would have possible meetings the second Tuesday of every month, because that would put us basically with having packets push out on Wednesday. Instead of being able to have it on a Thursday, we'd have to push them out on a Friday. So staff recommendation is to basically just set possible meeting dates, and the chairperson and the administrator will work together to make sure there's proper notice when a board meeting has to happen. And so with that, the motion would be moved to set possible county board meetings at the second Tuesday of each month.
Mark, I didn't hear half of what you said. It cut out.
I got a question for you, Clark.
Yes.
Is there any particular reason why you picked Tuesday instead of Thursday?
Yes, as I said before, in talking with staff, one of the goals is we pushed out packets. We want to have packets in the hands of the public and the citizens 6 days before the meetings for plenty of notice. In order to facilitate that, we feel middle of the week packet production, meaning Tuesday or Wednesday for the next week, Tuesday, is more effective than trying to push it out on a Friday when staff may or may not be around and there's pressures on that date. So if all things being equal, the county clerk's office and the administrator's office and the department heads feel the second Tuesday of each month would be an appropriate time for county board meetings if we need to schedule them.
Okay, any more discussion?
I would like to approve this motion if it hasn't been already.
This is Supervisor Negro. I'd like to second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye of approving the second Tuesday of the month. County board.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank you. County board handbook.
This is Supervisor Ortman. I move to approve.
This is Campbell, I second.
This is Martek. I have a question. I'm reading over the proposed handbook. Article 4, item 12 doesn't show any mention, let's see, of the second vice chair. Let me get my thing out here, but it.
No, Marty, you are correct that the second vice chair is an option for counties to put in place at any point in time that they want to, or they don't have to. And in this case, we just made a second vice chair, during this particular pandemic as a backup, but we didn't make it a permanent part of the handbook because the expectation is that we'll not be permanently in an emergency. So the next session that the county board comes into play, the next session will be in 2022. April of 2022, they can make a determination if they need a second vice chair at that point, but it does not need to be, it's a statute, it's a state statute, so they don't need to incorporate it.
Okay, I understand that. I was just wondering if the document would be internally consistent. That's all.
Yeah, and I mean, if the county board wanted to have a permanent second vice chair, they certainly could put that into the handbook. But it was staff recommendation that we only adopt that, now because of this particular issue. And the future board can make a determination. This document will be updated. The executive committee will update this document every 2 years. And so this is not your final product. This is a product until the executive committee changes it. And then the county board adopts it, changes.
This is Supervisor Ortman. Marty, I do see one reference to it in line 2, but if it wants to be taken out completely, that's okay too. I wasn't exactly sure how it would be noted in the handbook at all anyway. Seems like a very unusually not busy position, if you get my meaning.
Yeah.
Clark, I have a suggestion. When you go into print with this, the final draft or whatever, under table of contents, could you list committee appointments? I noticed it's not in there.
Table of contents on the bottom, Article 7 attachments, committee appointment chart.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep, and
I'm
so
sorry.
that's that chart that we had earlier. That is this chart right here.
All right.
And the people on the phone can't see this. This is basically just a spreadsheet that just has, how many people, like, forest and recreation, appointed by the chair, 5 people, but there's no names or anything like that. And, executive committee is elected with the chairperson and the vice chair from finance committee. So it's kind of lays down your framework of what you're going to do future for committees.
Thanks, Clark.
Yep.
We have a motion and a second on the table to approve the county board handbook.
Dick, I have some comments.
Before we approve it, I have a question. This is Joe Rose. In regard to public comments, if I remember right, it's 3 minutes per person, 30 minutes limit for all public comments per meeting. And if a large number of people show up, I think we could limit that to 3 meetings. If you only have a couple of people that show up, I think that we should give them more time, because one of the reasons that I ran for county board to start out with is citizen voices matter, and that's very important as far as I'm concerned.
Well, Joe, historically now, when we take that into consideration, the amount of people who want to speak, the only thing that I guess I have a problem with the original draft of this thing is if you have 25, 30 people, you don't want them all to talk. You want to have them appoint a spokesperson. I don't think that's right.
So this is Clark. The people on the computer can see this, but we passed a public comment ordinance, and so this basically is adopted on the 27th of February of this year, and these are the details of that, and that is on the website concerning our ordinance for public comments.
Now, do you call a special meeting if quite a few people don't get to make public comments? How do you work that then?
Well, I think as Dick said, if you have 40 people that all want to say the same message, the chair of the county board has the authority to basically say, I would like to see 4 spokespersons basically speak to this issue instead of having 40 people say the same thing. So the chair has availability to do that. County boards basically have the availability to say public comment won't go on for 5 hours. They have the authority to do that. And this is in your ordinance.
There are some people that submit written comments as well.
Yep, right here in the ordinance, Joe, I got electronic or written comments will be retained by the county clerk if received 3 business days before the meeting and will be summarized for the meeting. So if people give written comments, they'll be part of the official record, and the county clerk will be in charge of summarizing any written comments or emails.
Well, it's been my experience that the board doesn't always act according to the written comments of the people.
Well, that's part of the reason why we passed this ordinance, so everybody knows, the public and the board and staff know what are the expectations concerning public comments. This whole ordinance is about public comments. So, and that's
Your only other option.
Go ahead.
Your only other option is to submit an article maybe to the Ashland Daily Press or to news media to get your message out. I'm concerned about that.
So again, in that public comment ordinance, which was adopted and passed by the county board, written materials from public comment speakers can be left at the county boardroom for pickup by county board members after the meeting. A copy will be retained by the county clerk. No distribution will be allowed during the meeting. We talk about signs being no larger than 2 by 2. People can only speak once. Yeah, so I would direct you to read the ordinance, Joe, and I can.
I never read the ordinance.
Yeah.
This is Supervisor Negro. I agree with Joe on this. I know we talked about all the comments and things, but I think we need to start being more prepared. We should have known our last issue that was huge would be huge, and we should have had possibly listening sessions, because then we can take that information and bring it to the county board. I don't feel that everybody's voices in that room got heard, even though we all passed what we passed, and it is what it is at this point. Our jobs are to make sure that those voices get heard, and we just need to be better prepared. They shouldn't all have to bum rush us at a county board meeting because we haven't listened to them yet. We should listen to them first and then take it to the county board meeting.
This is Supervisor Ortman. I agree with Supervisor Negro and Rose. I think it's more event driven though. Obviously some things are going to be more controversial, and I think we always know that. And like taking this Enbridge thing, I really think we should have had just a particular time set aside, and maybe 4 or 5 hours where it was just purely a listening session, where we took copious notes and then we met and discussed what was presented, and then made our decision. Not have the listening session and the decision making session in the same meeting. Thank you.
This is Franek. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, the county board can have, when I came from Oregon, we basically had county board meetings, and we also had workshops. And so when we had county board workshops, they basically were non-decision making meetings. It was a more informal type of a meeting, still a quorum, but no decisions could be made at a workshop. And they could go on for a long time. And so if the county chair wants to have a workshop on an issue, he can schedule a workshop, and then people can just, then you can just sit there and listen and schedule 3 hours to listen to people speak if you want.
Hey, Clark, I've got a question about that. This is Dick, and I agree with what Laura and Charlie said. My question would be, would the listening session involve the executive committee or the entire county board?
It would normally not, in a workshop that I ran, it was a county board. It was a quorum of the county board to basically hear, but it didn't necessarily have to be. But it had official notice, it had publications, it had minutes, but there's just no decisions that could be made. You know, as a chairperson, Dick, I think you would have the availability to determine if you want to have a listening session and just have the executive committee take down notes and make a report of the public feelings. You have the availability to do that. But I would encourage you to concur with your fellow county board supervisors to make sure that they would support that type of a decision.
Well, absolutely. I wouldn't want to cut anybody out from the process because these are people who are actually promoting this. To leave it up to the listening session, up to the executive committee as an example of only 5 people, we got 16 people who would probably like to hear what the listening session is all about. So as long as it doesn't get to the point where we're having a listening session every month and a county board meeting every month, and it could get quite expensive. But yeah, I agree we should do that.
If the idea is to encourage the participation of the public, this is Supervisor Quebec. I think we should also consider holding these types of sessions at a time where people can attend and not 9 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday.
This is Supervisor Negro. I agree very much with Supervisor Quebec, but I also want to remind us, we don't have to have an official organized board listening session. Each one of us as an individual can say, and put a little ad in the paper, say, hey, I'm going to be listening and want to hear about the issues you have, because that's what our job is. And we can meet at a coffee shop. You can have coffee talks with your different populations. We don't have to have this as a full board, and we can bring this stuff to a full board and report on this.
What are you suggesting, Laura, then that when we're going to hold one of these, we ask for volunteers who want to be there, or how would you handle that?
Actually, if I thought there was an issue that was big enough, I would call a couple of you guys and talk with each one of you along the way and ask if maybe there may not be all the interest. Just look at the last issue. We were separated on different things, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't listen to the people that want to have a different opinion. So there could have been 3 or 4 of us that sat down with part of our population and just said, hey, tell us what you have. They could have brought the information there too. We don't have to keep organizing this stuff from inside a meeting all the time. We are our representatives for our district. We sometimes have to take those initiatives. We also have to realize that not every piece of this is paid. Our meetings are paid. We are saving people money by being supervisors in that not paid section. There are a lot of people right now that don't have their jobs paying them right now either. We could do exactly what everybody else does. Do our job, because that's what our job entails, being a public servant. So there we go. Soapbox, mark me down. Okay, guys?
This is Mackenzie. I call the question.
This is Pat Kinney. I've got a couple comments on a different topic with this, if I could.
Call the question. I guess we should probably vote on that first, or is it related to that?
I think we need to vote on calling the question first.
Does it need a second to calling the question?
If it does, I'll second it.
Okay, in my understanding of Robert's rules, if we have a motion to call the question, there isn't debate concerning that particular item. So Dick, you would want to ask for a vote on calling the question. That would end discussion on this. That would end discussion.
Max Lindsay here. The Robert's Rules does require a second on the calling the question.
Okay, thank you, Max.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the table to call the question. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion
Aye.
carried.
Aye. Aye.
How many were opposed?
No.
Franny.
Aye. Kenny.
Metzinger.
Quebec.
Rose.
I think you should probably do a roll call, Dick, on this particular call the question vote, so we have a firm number on that.
Before we do the roll call vote on this, Clark here is saying that this isn't the final draft. In case we have some tweaking we want to do.
So in this case, Pat Kenny had actually sent me an email right before the meeting, and I didn't get a chance to review it. It looks like there are some couple spelling errors in there and a couple spaces after sentences. One is missing a period. So there are, I guess, we would look at the changes that would be made to this as being grammatical corrections. The other issue would be, you guys haven't updated this thing since the 70s, and part of your handbook says that the executive committee is going to review this and basically make recommendations to changes every 2 years. So we'll be working on this as an executive committee probably the fall of 21 to make sure that the handbook is what you want. I would consider the whole thing to be up for review every 2 years. And you can change your handbook at any meeting you want. This is not a document. You're not Moses. You didn't put these things in stone. You can change it the next meeting if you wanted.
So if we wanted to do some altering of the public meeting participation, could we do that at another time, or is this done when we do this?
You could do that at another time. Part of the reason why I wanted to bring this to the board is every 2 years, the county clerk has to update that little official directory you get, that little colored thing. And in there is language concerning some of these handbooks, concerning the committee duties, and there's things that the executive committee spent 5 months looking at. So they spent 5 months on this issue, and it'd be my recommendation to adopt it, and then we could publish that official directory. And then, if you're going to change the ordinance for public, you can change the ordinance for public comments. You could change your handbook for public comments. You can take methodical time to go through those if that's the interest of the board. So just stepping back into the parliamentary procedure here, Dick, there was a motion and a second to call the question. You took a vote on it. I found it hard to ascertain what was the vote. So my recommendation is for you to take a roll call vote on calling the question. And that's up to you, Dick. You have to ask that.
All right. We'll do a roll call vote on that. Heather, can you do that?
Yes. Kinney.
No.
Ortman.
No.
Brannick.
No.
Hufall.
No.
Stendor.
No.
Rose.
No.
Berlin.
No.
Corpola. Corpola. Mecca.
Yes.
Vitek.
Yes.
Huber.
Yes.
Kinnunen.
Yes.
Wiener. Shooty. Burdig,
Yes.
Negro,
Yes.
McKenzie,
Yes.
Quebec,
No.
Metzinger,
No.
Campbell,
No.
Heather? Heather, this is Kathy Schutte. Can you hear me?
yes.
Did I have my microphone on when you asked me my vote?
No.
No, you did not. What is your vote?
Yes.
Yes, 8, no, 10.
Okay, thank you. Next, we'll move on to F, County Administrator Updates.
I think we're still on 6, Dick, and I think Pat Kinney has something he wanted to say.
Yeah.
This vote for everybody, this was just a vote to call the question. So you didn't, there was a motion and a second to adopt the handbook. Then there was a motion to call the question. That motion failed, and so you're still in the debate stage on the original motion, which is to adopt the county handbook.
Okay, any more discussion?
This is Pat Kinney, if I could.
Go ahead.
Reading through this, one of the issues that struck me is the supervision of the administrator. And I'm fine if the executive committee looks at this issue. It strikes me that there's not an annual review of the administrator, and I would support having an annual review. I think that's good for the administrator and the county and the public. On page 4, item 2D, it says that board members shall not interfere with the county administrator's duties to oversee the daily operations. I wholeheartedly agree with that. And then on page 5, towards the top on E, it says the county board selects the administrator and monitors the county administrator's management. So where's the line between not interfering with the administrator and monitoring it? And if we go to page 16, the third paragraph from the bottom on the executive committee duties, towards the end of the third paragraph from the bottom on 16, it says that the executive committee should provide supervision of the county administrator on behalf of the county board and provide any recommendations to the full board. So in this handbook, it's not at all clear to me how the county board provides supervision without interfering in the daily duties of the administrator. I would like the executive committee, if that's the appropriate place, to consider implementing an annual review so that there's supervision, there's feedback, there's input, not just from the board, but from the public also. And I'll leave that issue there for the administrator and the executive committee to consider. And then one other comment on the very back of the package, page 26 in the upper right for the executive committee, the language there with chairperson and vice chair from finance to me wasn't clear. If we look back, and I had to look back to page 15 on the duties of the executive committee, it says one person is the county board chairperson, and they use the word chairperson there. And then the second person is a finance chairperson. If the language on the upper right of 26 could be consistent with 15, so that as 26 stands alone, that language is clear. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Yeah, I can certainly change that on page 26. Regarding the oversight of the county administrator, part of the in an administrative form of government, obviously only as a governing body does the governing body speak and provide direction to a county board member, to a county administrator. And you are correct. There is a fine line between what does monitoring mean and what does interfering with the operations. If Clark is flying off the handle, really it's a county board that has to come in and corral Clark to say, we're going to discipline Mr. Schroeder, or we're going to suspend him, or we're going to fire him. Those are the types of things that are at the county board level. the management of the daily operations. You are by your inherent structure, you are a policy setting board to set high level policies, and the management of the county is left to your administrator and to your staff, your professional staff. So.
Is there any more discussion on the county board handbook then? If not, we should do a vote on approving, or is there a motion on the table to approve the handbook?
Yes.
Yep, there was a motion and a second.
Second. Okay. Well, then let's, any more discussion on this, or we'll vote on it. All those in favor of approving the county board handbook, say aye.
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 All those who are opposed, say no. Anyone opposed to approving the county board handbook? Motion carries. Thank you. County administrator updates.
Okay. I have quite a bit of updates. I think I'm going to, I'm actually going to put them up here and just kind of read through them. So Ashland County and Bad River Nation hosted a National Guard testing event this week here in town. 148 tests were taken at the elementary school on Binsfield. 145 were negative and 3 were waiting for results. And I don't see from Liz, I asked her for those. They didn't hit the state, those other 3 didn't hit the state system. So that we weren't sure if they were negative, positives, or if they just got lost in the system. And I just want to say thank you to the Bad River Tribe and to the Ashland County staff, the Ashland City Police Department, and the National Guard for pulling this off. I was very pleased with the results. The organization of it, we put it together in a fairly short period of time. And one of the things that we'll be looking at is, should we do this again in the future? So I have some information on COVID that I'll go through, and then I'll take questions on COVID before we move forward with it. I'm hosting weekly Zoom meetings with the department heads, just to let you know. So I'm ensuring they have the most current data and advice that we're going to give to our staff. We want to make sure, as we're responding to this COVID pandemic, we're treating our employees the same, and all the federal guidance, the FFCRA, the Extended Family Medical Leave Act, how we're bringing people back into the buildings, all of those issues. I want to make sure that as a department heads, we're all together on this. So the cooperators meeting, I talked about that last time. I started that group on March 19th, 5 days a week, and I'm down to 3 times a week now because I feel very confident in our planning. We basically have Bayfield County staff, Ashland County staff, Red Cliff, Bad River, City of Ashland, and MMC. And I host these meetings on Zoom with the support of our extension office. And they basically take minutes, develop social media posts, manage the way we're talking on the meetings, etc. I want to commend the extension staff and Amy Tromberg basically for really stepping in and helping us run these regional meetings as we respond to this regional issue. The pandemic doesn't have any borders. Normally we have around 15 to 19 people in these calls. We have limited the participants in order to have a level which could be managed and provide input. It's not a listening session. It's for developing guidance and developing strategies to deal with this issue, which is why we really haven't invited any politicians, city council, board members, or everybody else, councils, tribal councils. So we continue to work on various issues. So our isolation plans, we basically have a hotel right on the lake here that we basically would utilize if we need to isolate, voluntary isolation for people who can't, who have tested positive or who have taken a test and are systematic and can't go back to their home due to the living situation. They're couch surfers. They have fragile elders there. So that is set up. We're developing a job description this week, because if we open the isolation center, we need to have 24/7 supervision to monitor it, because the last thing you want to do is have a COVID positive person in a hotel and then have them host a party. Think of what that would do to our particular number. So we have the food lined up through Northland College and the Office on Aging. Ancillary purchases are set up. So we've only had one person that we so far have had to isolate due to the fragile living situation and basically a suspected case, and they ended up being negative. And so after their quarantine period, we no longer provided that. We're working on mass fatality planning. So as a regional basis, I'm working on putting together basically 4 counties, and once I get together with this, I'll probably be inviting Red Cliff and Bad River also to be part of our mass fatality planning if we need to look at specifically if we need to purchase a refrigerated cooler truck from a county level to store bodies if we end up with that level. And again, these are all preparedness worst case scenarios, but that's what emergency planning is about, is preparing for bad outcomes. Travel advisories, as you well know, we had a travel advisory put out in March. We're looking at updating that this week to go with a travel safely. So as travel restrictions get lifted throughout the state, the Safer at Home order ends, we will be looking at providing advice to people as they come back into our community. They come back to our second homes. They come back, and we want to make sure we're providing proper advice. And what we're trying to do, part of this group, is try to provide uniform messaging. So Ashland doesn't say something different from Bayfield, from Bad River, or Red Cliff. So we're all trying to work on this together and providing, basically sound public health guidance. FEMA funding issues. So staff have been working diligently on learning how to claim what claims are reimbursable. Right now, 75% of emergency, operations and management can be reimbursed by FEMA at the federal level. 25% is county share. Of that 25%, half is paid by the state of Wisconsin, so we're down to 12.5%. So we're trying to make sure we can maximize those FEMA dollars in our response. PPE distribution and PPE reprocessing. So our emergency management directors are taking in orders from people that need emergency distributions of PPEs. So again, you're talking clinics or hospitals or nursing homes, daycare, group homes, health departments. And then we make a request to the state, they ship it up, and then we distribute it down to the dentist office, or these people who basically have an emergency request for PPEs. We're also working closely with MMC and our health departments to work on reprocessing of N95s. There's a Battelle system down in Madison that uses a hydrogen peroxide reprocessing, and the hospital's working on a contract with that. And we're looking at maybe doing that as a regional approach. So we send one big shipment down to Madison at a time. Otherwise, there's a UV reprocessing site in Hayward that is starting to operate, where basically you would label your mask and they would hang them, and then they get processed with UV light to be disinfected. So we're trying to make sure that we're using the most effective and cost-effective management to reuse these masks and extend their lives, because we have a shortage for that. We continue to monitor the levels of MMC, respiratory illnesses, and the clinic, the respiratory tent out there. We continue to monitor our inmates at our jails and their health, and how do we monitor, incoming procedures to make sure we're going to try to keep those jails as low population as we can. A month ago we had a lower number. I think, as our sheriff has said, people have been making poor decisions, and our jail numbers are going back up again. I don't know if that's because of the stimulus checks and people are making bad decisions on those, but we are seeing an increase in jail populations. Public health, we've been working on advice for area businesses. And so we've been pushing that out to people saying, you know, not only in coordination with the state, now the state has their programs out, we're making sure people have that information. And even though it's at a high level, we make sure we are the people on the ground that are going to give advice and implement these state guidelines concerning how you open your business safely. We've been studying antibody testing because I think that's going to be obviously one of our other goals going forward, is to figure out what is our population that has had this pathogen. And so we're gaining information on that. And Red Cliff is doing a stellar job in the research on that, and they're sharing that information with us. They do have a plan to work on some antibody testing up in their reservation. And then I talked to the governor's office yesterday, trying to see if we could get some testing for our EMS volunteer services. I think that's a big issue, is we're relying on our 13 other volunteer EMS around this regional area, and they're putting their lives on the line and risking because who's positive and who's not testing, or who's not positive. So I'm working with the governor's office on that, trying to facilitate either testing the EMS volunteers, or I'm trying to see if I can get a quick test at the hospital after they get dropped off at the wagon. After the wagon drops them off, test the patients so that the EMS people know. So kind of working on those general issues for COVID. I'll take a break here. If anybody has any questions about our county management of COVID.
This is Mackenzie. I'm wondering, couldn't you summarize this stuff in the email to us?
I certainly could. I could do weekly emails out to you guys if you're interested in this.
I don't know that it needs to be weekly, but I think this portion of the meeting could be done more by email. And then we'd have a record of what you're talking about, and we could move along quicker.
Okay. All right.
I heard some of the supervisors talking about how they don't receive emails. So I don't know how that's going to work.
And this is Supervisor Negro. I kind of like hearing this stuff like this. I mean, he could do a summary, but that takes up more of his time, and he's doing a whole bunch of meetings too. Right now, if he's talking to us, we can ask questions and have our input on it too, as we should.
And this is Supervisor Schutte. I agree with Laura and Ms. Quebec.
This is Supervisor Franek. I had heard from Bad River people that a lot of elders wanted to attend but did not have access. So in the future, if this could be better notified and planned, and I like the idea of the antibody testing also. I think anybody that needs a test or wants a test or is concerned about this should have it. Thank you for your input, though. Thank you.
One of the things that we're noodling around for the next request from the National Guard, I think one of the things I'm thinking about is asking the National Guard to come back, let's say in mid-June, after we have opened up our restaurants somewhat and you see more visitors back. Again, testing people for COVID is a snapshot in time. You could test negative today and you'll be positive tomorrow, but it does provide at least some evidence. The other thing that I would be looking at is, if we do expand our testing capacity as the governor has dictated, I would like to see asymptomatic people be tested also, because I think that would provide a bigger snapshot of where we're at on this. And I think we would get more participants. We only had 148 people show up because we only asked people that had showed some sort of symptoms for this. We had 300 tests. But we didn't use them all because we limited to that group. So we're looking at requesting a bigger event in June sometime to get a better snapshot of where we're at.
This is Supervisor Negro. I know I've been watching the numbers on this, and the tribal population is a little more susceptible to this. I'd like to see testing towards that area targeted. I'd also like to see the rural areas, because not everybody can pick up and drive to the school, on a certain day and do this. I know it's a little harder to have like a mobile test site a couple of different days, but if we could target that the rural population too, because we're not just the city.
The tribal nations through the Bureau of Indian Health, and you'll have to correct me if I have that title wrong, but they both have been granted the Abbott Quick Test. And this is a machine that they're basically verifying and calibrating. They've had it now for, I think, a week and a half. It is like a half-hour test, and they get so many test kits every week. And so the tribal nations have a quicker test. They are also utilizing the slow test also to make sure, because there has been questions concerning the Abbott Quick Test and its reliability. And so they've been, especially Red Cliff, I know they've been doing two tests, a quick test and a slow one, to verify, to make sure is it a positive or negative. As far as a regional approach, this particular National Guard setting covered Iron County, parts of Bayfield County and Ashland County. And so the National Guard probably would not set up in they might set up in Price County next and do counties down there. So Southern County could maybe go down into Price County. So those would be the things we'll talk about in June. Any other questions on COVID? All right, WCA has a few Zoom meetings every week. Supreme Court case and possible county action is something that we've been talking about. One of the things that the governor's emergency order expired yesterday at midnight, and so the WCA put out some information late last night concerning what orders did the governor have that expired and what orders basically did DHS continue that are in question with the Supreme Court case, which was heard last week on Monday or Tuesday. And so we're continuing to study that. One of the issues would be is if the DHS, if the constitutionality of the DHS orders are thrown out, it would fall to county health departments and specifically county health officers to basically issue or implement any types of safer at home or directive orders if the Department of Health Services is found unconstitutional. So we are following that on an hourly basis, trying to make sure that we can respond to that, and we're working very closely with WCA on this. Act 185, I've been studying that. Act 185 is basically came out that allows counties to delay property taxes, penalties and interest for people until October 1st. In studying this issue, it really is not a very good fit for Ashland County because it'll be a cash flow issue. It's a little technical, but we have to make settlements with the municipalities basically before we would get our taxes in. So to involve us going out and getting loans in order to settle with municipalities. In addition, the settlement is beyond the date when local schools that issue revenue anticipation notes, they might have to borrow to do that. Basically, I don't think we have the bandwidth or the cash to go out in the open market right now to facilitate this. As soon as I get going here with the Finance Committee, we will be looking at our cash flows, the settlement dates. I'm expecting a $100,000 to $200,000 decrease in sales tax this year. So we're going to have to adjust the budget this year. And I've been working with the Chris Hoffman on timber sales. He'll be bringing a recommendation to his committee. I would fully expect the timber industry has kind of decreased price, so we're going to have to make a decision on that. We're expecting revenue from the timber sales, and we're probably not going to get what we expected this year because of the decreased price or the timing. And also, we're going to want to make sure that we get the Finance Committee together to start providing guidance for our 21 budget. Due to decreased sales tax, probably decreased state shared revenues, decreased timber sales, we're going to have a very challenging next 24 months. And I'll be getting the committees together to start discussing that. The governor had order number 36. That basically came out yesterday, I'm sure you're well aware of. And that is this order. And this basically talks about small businesses with less than 5 people being able to come in the retail businesses. So that is a good news for our small retail operations. And that basically the local guidance also came out from the state. And so this is reopening guidance, and you can see we have everything from agriculture, construction, hair, nail salons, gyms, fitnesses. So these are all informations that is available for our local businesses, and our public health is working with this to make sure we, let's say, interpret it or operationalize it when it gets down to the local level in the city of Mellon or the city of Ashland. I've been partaking in regional administrator meetings to discuss policies and recommendations that other counties are doing regarding COVID-19, county building access, employee temperature, public access, mass, jury selection process, remote meetings, HR issues, fiscal issues. So we're different than Milwaukee and Osaka and Waukesha and all those other counties down there. So we're trying to meet as a group up here to try to do more of a regional, cooperation on this. I would encourage all the county board members to make sure you subscribe to WCA Online. They basically have emails that go out every single day about state issues, and there's more information there than I can read. And I would encourage all of you to partake in that. In addition, I will send out to people. This is a WCA along with Extension is doing online county board education. So roles and responsibility of county officials, agendas and meetings, county budget, running effective meetings, open meeting laws, public record laws, ethics and conflicts of interest. So this is these are online starting in June 8th. I will send this out to people with emails. And please check your email. You have to register yourself for this, and it starts on Monday, June 8th. I'd encourage people to attend those. And if you don't, the 3 people that don't have county emails, we will mail out a copy of that so you can register that if you want. There's a tentative flyover tomorrow with the 115th Fighter Wing. At MMC, I will send out details on that. We just learned about it, and if I get details and the time, I will let you know concerning that.
Excuse me, this is Supervisor Ortman. Sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
I have a doctor's appointment at 11:15, so I have to bail out a little early. Thank you, everyone. Great meeting. I'll see you all at the next one. Bye.
Thank you, Charlie.
Yep, thank you, Charlie. That is my update. So I am done.
Clark, this is Dick. I just got one question for you. On that list of different businesses and whatever, did they have casinos on there? I think it's very important that be addressed because this is a major part of the tribal income. And we have to get those things up and running. Besides, I don't know what to do with myself on Monday.
I don't know. Entertainment and amusement. Maybe this is it here. Hospitality, lodging, gatherings, outdoor. From our cooperators meetings, I know both tribal agencies are looking at starting around the end of this month, and they're developing guidance along with their partner tribal members around the state. What are the safe practices? And so we have discussed concerning in a high level area, distances between machines. Should there be card games allowed? How when a machine is vacated, how it gets cleaned. So we have discussed that from a public health perspective, but they're also getting information from their other tribal friends that are also studying the same issue. So that's lodging. So yeah, we're working on it.
All right, thanks, Clark. Yes. You're done with your updates, Clark?
I'm done with my updates. Thank you.
Okay, County Board Supervisor reports.
I have one thing to update the county board with. We received a grant from Enbridge Energy to buy defibrillators for the county. We bought 5 of them and they cost $6,357. And Clark, you'll be glad to know that did not come out of the county budget. I got a grant for that. We have the defibrillator for Ashland County in the city. It will be installed at the aging unit building where the seniors get their meals. We're just waiting for the opportunity to go in there and install it. And that will be the last of 5. So Butternut, Glidden, Mellon, Sanborn, and the city of Ashland all got a defibrillator that cost $1,500 and it was free. It didn't cost the county a dime.
Thank you.
And the last thing, remind everybody it's election day. They should go vote.
This is Supervisor Negro. I'm still working on some small business help to help people expand their businesses or work on their social media to ramp that up to help them get through this. If you guys have any interest, give me a call. Charlie's working with me. I've got Lissa from UW Extension. We've got Betsy Screw. Lots of different people that we're pulling in for this just to see if we can get some interns from WITC or Northland and things and get some people going online.
Thanks, Laura. Any more county board supervisor reports? If not, a motion to adjourn would be in order.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Anybody who wants to stay longer? We're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. And Clarence, my deepest condolences to your wife and for her mom.
Thanks, Liz.
Welcome.
Okay. Is there any other comments? Otherwise, I'll shut down the meeting.
Shut her down.
Okay.